everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Carrie. Today is March 13th, 2024, and I want to thank you all for being here to watch my little show about all the crafty stuff I've been doing. Today I've got quite a bit of sewing, quilting stuff, and some knitting. So hang out, grab a drink, adult beverage, depends on the time of day, or not. Anyway, I do appreciate you all being here. The last time I spoke with you, I was making sewing a shirt, and I had some semi-success with it, but it wasn't quite right. And someone suggested in the comments that I needed to add darts to the garment, and I had thought about that. Didn't know how to do it. I thought, let me just look into doing it. And so I saw some YouTube videos that were pretty much saying the exact same thing. So I thought, okay, that's really how you do this. And I altered the pattern, wasn't quite right. I altered the pattern some more, wasn't quite right. Wasn't quite getting the fit that I wanted. And I thought maybe I'm just trying to make something happen that's not meant to happen with this pattern. So I went to Joann's Fabrics and I did buy some double gauze. I thought that would make a really nice flowy summery top. And I got a McCall's pattern that was very similar to what I was making, but had set-in sleeves and already had the darts in it and everything. And I thought, okay, let me just try this. Well, it didn't work either. The darts were way up here. And even in my younger days, they weren't up here. But anyway, I tried altering the darts on that, and I must have made at least 10 versions of this top over the course of a week or two, trying to get it right. And I just finally was like, I think I'm just trying to make something work that's just not going to work. I had used up the extra quilting fabric that I could use that was stuff I wasn't going to make anything with. And I just went through, I had stuff all over the place. And it just wasn't working. And I was getting really frustrated because I had had a series of trials of things that just weren't working. I spent a lot of time trying to knit a sweater on my knitting machine using not using a pattern, but just using a pattern generator. And I wasn't having any luck with that. And I tried for a month and I couldn't get it right. And I'm like, okay, I got to do something different with that. And then I started sewing this shirt and then that wasn't working. And I was just just needed some success. So I put that stuff away and I picked some simpler projects and it feels better. I will go back to the shirt because I really do feel like I want to get that to work, narrow that down into something that is wearable that I could duplicate in different fabrics and stuff. But I needed to put it away because it was getting ridiculous. I think I'm pretty close. I kept thinking that I'd make another version. It's like, oh, almost. The dart just needs to be here and it needs to be a little this. And so I will probably revisit it, but not for a little bit. We are just starting to feel like spring. In fact, this weekend's going to be very nice and warm. And when summer gets into full swing, I don't spend a ton of time up here because it gets too warm. And so I won't be doing a ton of sewing in here. Last summer, I did move my sewing machine and stuff out into another room that isn't quite as hot. It's just the upstairs is hot. Anyway, that's being said to say my sewing time is probably kind of limited. But I'm still working on stuff. I haven't, when I started to make the shirt, I put away all the stuff that I was doing to make the Starry Night quilt. So that is a quilt that I'm doing. It is foundation paper pieced. It is a kit by Legit Kits, and it's going smoothly. I just needed a palette cleanser. It's still right there. I haven't put it away, but I just kind of packed it up and tidied it and put it kind of away. And so I will get back to that. But like I said, I was needing some projects that weren't taking so much brain power that I knew I could be successful at, to just give me that feeling of of like, okay, yeah, that worked. And then I can go into something and try something that doesn't work. I am a process maker. I also liked the end product. So I kind of like both, but it is about the process for me. And I'm okay with things not working out. I that's part of the process, and that's part of how I get things to work. It's just that lately the things I've been trying, it seemed like everything wasn't working. So we had to start over, which led me to just casting everything on and all this stuff. I did start this little scrappy project. So when I went to Sister's Outdoor Quilt Show last summer with a group of friends from my online sewing group, we all met. And we went to the Sisters Outdoor Quilt Show, and I had seen a quilt that was what they consider a postage stamp quilt. So it's just little squares. And I thought, I've got all these scraps. I don't necessarily have a stash. I don't have like yardage. I have some leftover yardage of stuff, but most of it's just bins of scraps. And they're, decent sized scraps. And I thought, what if I just start cutting that stuff up into strips, and then I can make something with that. And I was thinking I was going to make these little square, do this little postage stamp quilt. And I had just taken out some fabrics, and if they were big enough to cut into 2-inch strips, then I did it. Some pieces are this long, some pieces are the width of fabric, and I've just been slowly cutting stuff up. And I had seen a scrappy quilt on Instagram. It came up through my feed. I started following her. Her name's Emily Dennis. Hopefully I can put the Instagram link down below. And I do put any links to anything that I've got down below in the description box. But she was making a string quilt, which I had thought of as part of my strips as well. And a string quilt is an old way of making a quilt. You sew little strips to a piece of paper, or way back they used to sew it to other fabric, and that acts as your foundation. So the way she showed it is she was doing the strips on a 60-degree angle, and she drew a 60-degree line on a piece of paper that is a half sheet. So I just took a piece of computer paper, printer paper, folded it in half, cut that. So I have a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of paper, drew a line that's 60 degrees. In fact, I have one right here. So I just drew the line 60 degrees. I take a piece of fabric, I just pin it to the paper on the line, and then I just take another fabric, do right sides together, plop it on, and then not quite that messy, but it's kind of hard to hold up. But what I decided to do, I love the look of her quilt, but I decided to do things crooked instead of it all being very straight. And then that gives different widths to the fabric. And then that way, when I put them together, hopefully the seams aren't lining up, so I'm not worried about which way the seams are pressed. But I will put down the first one, and then I'll decide how crooked I want it. And I just lay the top one down, and then I sew along the top fabric edge, trim this off, and then that makes it crooked. And so I started doing that, and I thought, I really do kind of like it. So right now I've just got blues and some pinks and purples. I have to dig through my scraps to get more colors, but I do one this way, one this way, and if you put them side by side, it'll give like a chevron. But if you turn it, it does this design, which I like a lot better. So that's just scraps and done in this technique. And it's a lot of fun because there's not any rules necessarily, other than I want to make sure I've got some contrast in there and that they're not all going wonky in the same direction. Other than that, it's like whatever. And so you've got all this fabric, trim around the edge of the paper, take the paper off, and you've got that block. Now the way that Emily showed it is she drew that line, sewed along the line, or sewed along the edge of the fabric on that line, and then every time she added fabric, she just folded the paper back, so you only had one seam to tear. And then when it's all sewn and you've got all this fabric and it's all sticking out around the edges of the paper, that paper is my guide for trimming it down. Take the paper off and I've got blocks that are all the same size. So I'm going to continue working on this because this is pretty fun. It's using up my scraps. I swear my scrap bin, even though I have made scrap quilts, so was it last year I made the 100 blocks and I used all just blues and greens out of my stash, out of the scraps. I don't think my blue bin went down. I think that they have babies once you pull some out. I don't know what happens, but I've got a ton. So I was even thinking keeping in this palette for this one because it's very pleasing. I don't know if I'll add like yellows or greens or whatever to it. That might be a different quilt. I don't know, but this is just something very quick and it's been a lot of fun to work on. So I'm going to continue just doing some of these scrap pieces and eventually I'll have a quilt and it's all going to be made out of my scraps and who knows what I'll do with it because I don't really need another quilt, but I like making them. So that's part of the process. I just like making them. So that's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. So that doesn't have a name. It's just a string style quilt. But it's been pretty fun. Another thing I did is I did quilt a quilt. So I do have a long arm. I used a long arm for a business. And over the holidays, we found out that Jim's oldest sister is going to get married. First marriage for her. And she's in her 60s, upper 60s. So it's pretty exciting. And I had this quilt top made. I'm going to pause for a second because the street sweeper is going to come down my street, I think, and clean my streets. Maybe he's a little further away. I'll wait. So anyway, I made this quilt a while ago. This used, all this fabric was from 2.5-inch strips. So it was a jelly roll pack or jelly roll that I had gotten. It's Michael Miller fabric. It's old. I made this a long time ago. And the pattern is Metro Rings by So Kind of Wonderful. And it's just all these fun colors on a darker gray background. And then I did a pantograph on it and this aqua kind of binding to go with it. So this is going to be her wedding present. It is So Kind of Wonderful's version of a double wedding ring or wedding ring quilt, which is an old quilt style. So I thought it was appropriate. She loves bright colors and the back's kind of crazy, but I think she's gonna like it. So got that finished. I will wash it before I give it to her, as I do with any quilt that I give away, but I'm gonna wait until we're closer to wedding day. Okay. Whew. The airport is busy today. It's because it's a nice day. In fact, we're supposed to be like 75 on Saturday, and we were frosty this morning. So that's spring for you. Goes from one extreme to the next. In fact, Jim and I are gonna go camping for a night this weekend because it's getting so nice. We were both just like, we're both getting antsy to just get out, just go out and do something. We've had a really rainy, wet winter, and so we're due to go and spend some time out in the forest. And so we are working towards. We like to camp a lot, and we have a trailer, but we camp all different ways. We've backpacked, we camp in a tent, we camp in our trailer. We just like to be outside in the forest exploring, and so we want to do more off-road camping where we go 4-wheel drive up a road somewhere, park somewhere beautiful, and just camp there. So I told Jim, I said, what if we just go for a night? Let's just go up in the woods. It's going to be warm, and we're going to go, and we're going to sleep in the back of the car. Jim has a Toyota Sequoia, which is a big SUV, and we'll put our sleeping pads in the back. When you lay the back down, all the seats and everything, it makes a comfortable space. So we're going to just do that just for the night. And all we have to bring is a 1-burner stove with a propane tank so we can boil water. That gives us water for coffee. And for oatmeal breakfast, we're going to have leftover pizza for dinner and just keep it super simple. And then just enjoy sitting out in the forest in the quiet and just be away from home. Just be away from everything. So I'm really excited about that. It'll be our first time trying to sleep in the back of the car. So we will see how that goes. We'll see how it goes. Like the worst that could happen is we're both miserable and we just go, this isn't working. Pack it all up and drive home. We'll only be maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours tops from home. We can, even if it's the middle of the night, we can always just come home. So we're going to do that this weekend. So wish us luck on that. Another another project that I'm starting. My friend Brendan, who is part of the sewing group that I am a part of, he and a few other people went to QuiltCon in February, middle of February, and I didn't go. But they had all kinds of inspiration for me, and they just in talking about their stories and stuff like that. And one thing that Brendan talked about, and he is like so creative, and I just love the way his brain thinks. And anyway, he shared with us this. He shared with us doing Sashiko stitching. Now, Sashiko is a Japanese style of embroidery, typically done on indigo fabric with white thread. And so he shared with me a website that sells these panels that are stamped with a design. The website is called Snuggly Monkey. And this is one of the designs I got. Now this is all just stamped ink on here, which will disappear when it gets washed or steam ironed. So it is a temporary print. And I'm not doing it in white because, So my goal on this particular one is I'm going to do shades of blue that'll go to pretty light here and then reverse and go here and then do something brighter for the flower. So I just started stitching it the other day, and it's nice. It's relaxing. I'm getting better at taking those bites and loading my needle with a few stitches before I pull through. This is a number 8 pearl cotton. It's just from a batch of cotton spools that I got on Amazon. And here, let's see if I can grab them. Here are my colors. So you can see it's going to go kind of, this will be one of the flowers. I think I'm doing these greens as the ring that goes around at the flower, and then the outside will be the shades of blue. So I'm really excited about it. I've just got them loaded up in my little basket. Olivia, I'm using a basket just like you. Olivia has a new podcast. So I met Olivia in Rhinebeck when I went in 2022. Very, very sweet person and very talented. And she just recently started her own podcast. And it's called Stories with Olivia. She is a librarian, but her and I have a lot of similarities, I find, especially in watching her and getting to know her more by watching her. And she stores a lot of stuff in beautiful baskets. And so that's a basket I've had. And I, years ago, made a lining and hot glued it in there so I have pockets, because you always got to have pockets. And so I thought it was perfect for this. So I did buy 3 of these panels. Oh, let me go back. I jumped. So Olivia, her podcast, I think I talked about it. Anyway, I'll put a link to her podcast below. She's very enjoyable to watch and has really great projects that she makes. So this is another one of my panels. Probably goes this way. Yeah, probably go that way. So I've got that one and then this one with the circles. So these come pre-printed, like I said, and it's on this very loosely woven fabric, like you can see through it. and it's folded because they have it so that you can make a pillow out of it. So I cut this off. I am not going to make a pillow out of it. My thought was if I get all 3 of these panels done and then frame them, and it would make a really pretty trio to hang up. So then I'll have this that if I wanted to draw my own Sashiko or whatever, I have that fabric. So being that it's loosely woven is easy to stitch through. So that is another one of my projects. I really want to iron it because I like having things nice and ironed, but if I iron it, the design goes away. So I won't be ironing it, but I will find time occasionally to stitch on it. It's not going to be something that I do every day probably. I like to switch things up, and if I get, my hands are getting tired from knitting or whatever, I'm getting tired of sitting at my sewing machine, I can sit somewhere else and do some handwork. So I have enjoyed it. I just haven't had the opportunity to do much of it. I believe that's all of my sewing stuff. Quilting stuff, like I said, gonna just kind of work on that. I'll pull this out occasionally, and that's the quilting I'm gonna work on for right now. I have plans. I have all kinds of plans, but I'm trying to stay focused. So then I've been doing quite a bit of knitting, and I have felt really good about what I'm making because, like I said, I was getting so frustrated with things not working. It's been nice to make things that do work, that I really love, that I enjoyed working on, and that were completed in a relatively short amount of time. So last time I showed you, I was working on the Vector Field Shawl, and this is by Alina Apasova. I'll link it. It's on Ravelry. This is a 2-skein shawl, mosaic knitting. As you can see, the color dominance changes about halfway through. So the blue is now the background on here, where this green was the background there. This yarn is Fiber Hustle yarn. The greenish color is Golden Kelp, and the blue is Abyss. And this was really fun to knit. And I'll post some pictures of me wearing it because I did do that. I did a little photo shoot. So I will be sending this to Aaron. These are very much his colors, and I think he will look fabulous. It'll make his blue eyes even bluer. So that got completed, and I'm very happy with it. I do really like the mosaic knitting because the backside is pretty clean, you know, as opposed to color work. And this definitely, you got into routine. This was definitely a repetitive pattern, so it was nice even for watching TV and stuff, and a very wearable size and stuff, at least for me. So that was number 1. And you're going to see a theme here, a lot of Fiber Hustle yarn, and part of the reason is because Fiber Hustle yarn is amazing, but I went through and put all my yarn on Ravelry in my stash. And so I don't have a ton. I think I ended up with like 61 skeins. So not a ton, but it was nice to go through. I didn't have any surprises. I remembered everything that was there. I do have some skeins that I dyed that I didn't put in there. So I guess I have more than 60, but for the most part, the stuff that I have purchased is on Ravelry. And so in going through that, and I always had Fiber Hustle yarn kind of off by itself. So when I was putting stuff on, I kept coming up with these combos and like, oh, I gotta make this with this. And it's dangerous for me to dig through my yarn because then I put things together and then I'm like, I have to start the project. So one of the things, I'll show you. Okay, yeah, one of the things I did, this is a skein of yarn that I had purchased quite a while ago, and it was just sort of like, I know this is going to be so pretty, and it's just going to be so great that I don't want to use it, which doesn't make any sense because I want it to be like so special. I'm like, nope, you got to do it. So I did a sock tube. This is the Good Life, I believe. Yep, the Good Life. I think Aaron just dyed up some more of this, but it turned out so much better than I had even hoped it would. And I'm so glad I made socks with it. I knew it was going to be good, but this, like, I knitted it up and I did a tube on my on my knitting machine. And as it's knitting, it's like the knitting part's going down here and I can't see it until it gets quite long, just about to the end of me knitting a sock. And I've figured over the time how many rows I need to do. I mark for the heel. I need to do this many rows and stops, and I hand knit the ribbing, the heel, and the toe. So I'm knitting along going, I'm so excited to see what this looks like. And I got it all finished, took it off the machine. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. So it's amazing. He doesn't do self-striping yarn, but this striped up so beautifully. So I am currently working on the second sock. I'm doing something. I don't remember. It's downstairs, but this is good. So look in the shop if this is something that you think you want to try. Another thing I did, and I think I was working on it on the last episode, was making the Be Simple variations. And it's a free pattern by Carolyn Glass Todrink. Not sure if I'm saying the name correctly. I'm so sorry. This is yarn from Destination Yarns. This is Cowboy Take Me Away. This color is amazing. I love everything about this. I love this shawl. It is a great shawl to wear because it's light. It makes a long enough shawl to wrap really nicely around your neck. It is asymmetrical and it just uses one skein. I can see making several of these when you get that skein that you're just like, oh, this has to just shine by itself. And I love it. I love everything about it. I am so excited that I did it in something like this that I can wear. So I have a little long tail. I just kind of knot it and boom, you're done. And it's not like real heavy. So this is a great pattern. Like I said, it's a free pattern. This one, the vector field, I did pay for. I think it's like $5 or something, normal. So yeah, and then this inspired a color combination for my next sweater, and I will share a sneak peek at that in a second. So highly recommend this if you've got that one skein that you just think lovely, you want to make a gift and you don't want to put a ton of yarn in it. This is super easy to knit, just uses the one skein. I knit until it's suggested knitting until you get you're basically wanting to use your whole skein. And so knit till you're, stop it at this certain row, which is the end of the repeat, and then do the bind off. And so I was kind of guesstimating, like I wasn't having very much yarn left, did the bind off and everything, and I ended up with 9 grams left. So I'm glad I stopped when I did. I don't think I could have gone through another 16 rows and bind off with 9 grams. Like that wasn't going to get me very far. So then I have this beautiful shawl. And I love it. So got the vector field done, got this done. It was like, I am on fire. As soon as these things were done, I'm casting on the next shawl. So I did cast on something new. So in going through my yarn to put on Ravelry, I put together this combo, which I think it's amazing, if I do say so myself. So I am making the 3-color cashmere shawl by Joji Locatelli, and it's exactly that. I'm not doing it with cashmere, but I am doing 3 colors. It's all Fiber Hustle yarn because they go together and they're amazing. So this is how far I've gotten. So this light blue is Paul Hollywood. This darker blue variegated is Absolutely Live, and it is based off of a Doors album. Erin likes to dye color, get color inspiration from albums. So this is the colors of the album cover for the Doors album, Absolutely Live. and went into these stripes, and now I'm done with the stripes, and the next section is like your color pop, right? And in her pattern she has like a limey green color. That's my color pop. I have it in one of my little yarn cozy things, but oh, look at that. That's gonna be so fun. So this is what I get to get into next and do that swath of this, and it's got like a little bit of texture stitches in it. So excited for this. And then on the bottom of that is a little bit of a lace, and it'll go back into this Paul Hollywood light blue. So, oh my gosh, that's going to be so fun. This has been really a joy to knit. For one, the colors are amazing. His yarn feels really good. This is fingering weight yarn. It's 4-ply. Do I have a tag in here? Yes, I do. Let's see. 4-ply, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 450 yards on each of the skeins. They're all the same base. And dang, that's good. So that's what I'm currently knitting on, is this. I was like dying to get into this pink color. And here I am. So, and these little things that I use, these little like yarn cozies, I just make them myself. And I've made them with these snaps on them, and I never snap them. I don't know why people have them, but I don't know. I don't ever snap them, but I tried putting it on. This one's a little bit of a smaller one, but it fits a skein of yarn. This is like a full skein of yarn. Anyway, so I just have several of these that I have made. They're great, especially with the multi-skein project, because as I pull the yarn out, like you can see with this one, the yarn's getting, so this one's a little bit bigger and the snaps do snap. Now I just ordered some snaps from Amazon, and it was an off-brand and they don't snap real great. So anyway, but you can see as this is getting smaller, it's still keeping it like nothing's getting snagged and no, nothing's getting all weird. So then they just slip in my bag really nicely. And the bag that I'm using for this project is a bag I've had for a while. It's a bag that from Bags by Awesome Granny, and she makes really nice bags, and this was one that I got from her. So that's my current project. I have been swatching for my next project based on the colors here, because I just love this combo so much. And it reminds me also of like a sunset, sort of, where you've got like those really rich colors. So I am going to make, my goal, this is what I'm aiming for, pretty sure I can do it, is I'm going to make the swallowtail sweater. And the swallowtail sweater is by Jamie Hoffman. It's a fingering weight colorwork sweater, uses multiple colors, and this is my palette. Right? So this color here, these two colors as the same color. This has been reskeined because I skeined it up to do a swatch or something. So that's going to be the bottom, the body of the sweater, where in the picture it's the pink. And then this color. So, okay, so these, let's just go over these colors. This color is That Will Buff Out. So that's what it looks like reskeined. It is so gorgeous when it's knitted up. So that will be the body. This is, she looks stunning. Will be here because this is a great color. And then you've got this like centerpiece that's got the main color work in it. It's the swallowtail with like decorative other things. I've changed what I initially was going to do. I think I'm going to do this as the background. So this is a navy. I'm not sure what he ended up calling it. So navy. And then I think I'm going to do the color work in the lighter color. Kind of do it opposite of the way she did it. And this is London Fog. And then to just add a little bit of pop, I got this. And so this is Pumpkin Spice LaHaye. And I thought that really pulled these colors together. Actually, both of these, because these go together so well. And so that's going to be my sweater. And I think it's going to be amazing. So I've been swatching. So I am so excited to get this started because I obviously love these colors. And it's not just because I made this, but it's going to be so good. So now I don't know if you guys watched, Fiber Hustle put out a new episode and they were showing some of their new knitting sacks that Chip's making, and he's making these big cube ones, and I think a sweater with all these skeins needs to go in one of those big cube ones. So as soon as those are up, man, I'm buying one. So anyway, that's as soon as my 3-color cashmere shawl is finished, I will start on the sweater, because now I've got my gauge swatch done and it's ready to go. And then I just hope that it works out and it fits. I will get a lot of practice doing the color work. I have done color work in the past and I've done fine. And so I'm sure it'll look lovely. And I think my colors are freaking amazing. So that's what we're doing. Yeah. So I will put links to everything down below. I hope that you check out Olivia's podcast, because she's definitely worth a watch. Fiber Hustle, as usual. Michael from Piece for Piece the other day, well, not this last podcast he did, but the one before, he's been having some like tennis elbow, and so he wasn't knitting as much, and so he was spinning, and he just sat there and did kind of a Q&A while he was spinning, and I could have put him on mute and just watched him spin. It was so relaxing, but it inspired me to get back to being more regular with my spinning. So I'm almost done with a spin that I'm doing that's using some silk and New Zealand merino, and it's like super soft and everything, and so I'm excited. I'll show that to you next time because it will be finished by then, and then I'll pick out my next who knows what, but I need to spin more regularly. He was even saying he could tell the difference from an earlier spin to now as he's been spinning a little bit more. And you just get better with everything, right? You get better with your knitting, your crocheting, your sewing. You get better when you practice. So I need to keep practicing, and I need to stop adding more crafts to my repertoire because I don't have time to do everything, but I try. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me during my ramblings, and I will see you next time with some finished projects, and who knows what else is going to be new. So take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Bye.